Hey there, I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between full-time ministry and ministry. I talk to a lot of young men, maybe 19, 20, even up to 24 years old, and they'll tell me that they're pretty sure that they should be in full-time ministry, and that's exciting. I mean, when people feel this way, it's typically because they really are doing a lot of things that you would see a pastor doing. They love studying the Word of God. They love evangelism. They love teaching people. They love leading people. And they already are, for all intent and purposes, in the ministry. And there's nothing less significant about what they're doing, right? So my point here is that a lot of people who really want to be in full-time vocational ministry might get frustrated that they're not being recognized or they're not being put in positions. But you've got to understand something. If you're in your early 20s and you feel that you should be recognized as a full-time minister of the gospel, a pastor, you're not ready. And there are a few exceptions to this, very few exceptions to this, but there are some. But for the most part, what you're doing is great. What you're doing with ministry is wonderful. And you should keep doing that. And you very well may be spiritually called to being a pastor, because look at you, you're actually doing all the things a pastor would want to do, and a pastor does do. You just want to be paid for it. And the truth is that there's no such thing as a spiritual call to vocational ministry. There's no such thing as God's not going to impress on you, I really need to be paid to be a pastor. God impresses that on the church. God impresses that on church leadership. They will sense that you are doing so much and you are leading so many people that they'll either say, hey, we need to get you more equipped in the Word. Maybe we need to send you to a Bible college or seminary to get some further education because we're really excited about you. Or maybe you don't need to do those things because you're a very diligent student in the Word of God, and they recognize that. The spiritual call to ministry happens to you personally, but the vocational call to ministry, that will be impressed on the church. You don't have to insist that that's what you do, because after all, wouldn't you do it for free? You would, wouldn't you? So here's my advice to you. If you're in your late teens or early 20s and you really believe that you should be in the ministry someday, get a job. Get a job. Find a career. Do something that you really love. And in fact, actually try to pick a trade or a vocation that you're going to interact with a lot of people. You're going to see maybe regular customers, okay, on a regular basis, so you can touch base with them and you can learn how to be like everybody else. Why is that important? Well, because Christianity is not in a vacuum. And I think a lot of people think that as a pastor, these are the people that get to do their ministry in a vacuum, away from the stresses of the world, away from the perverse or sinful-minded people of the world. And that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, I found the best pastors are pastors who have actually worked and had a vocation, had another vocation other than ministry before they were brought into the ministry, because they exemplified it. And they seem to know a thing or two about what it means to walk in this world like everyone else. That's important. And the reality is that if you're doing ministry, if you're doing the things that God has called you to do, then you're going to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. But until someone actually calls you and says, hey, would you consider coming and being our pastor? Then you don't need to seek it. You seek the Lord. You seek what He would have you to do and to be faithful. You don't necessarily need to be paid for it.